We know that when you use stop smoking hypnotherapy with a client, it's necessary to address specific reasons for why that client might be smoking. Here are 10 of the most common reasons that we come across in our practice. And before I go through some of those reasons, it's important to realise that just giving suggestions to people will never be enough in many cases to resolve a smoking habit. A really good hypnotherapist should address the reasons why somebody is doing the bad habit, because they know it will kill them, but despite that, they will still continue. Each person we see may have very different reasons for smoking, but here are just some of the most common ones that we see day to day. Well, of course, many people start smoking because of peer pressure. Their friends are doing it, so they feel that they need to join in. And if they aren't smoking, then they don't feel part of the gang anymore. And they do it to make friends. Now, as you get older, you're not a young little kid anymore, but still that part of you feels that, hey, my family and my friends, they all smoke together. So if I'm not smoking, I'm no longer part of that group. That isn't actually the truth, but it just is a compelling reason for why people feel that they still need to continue their habit. Or how about the need to look cool? How many people started smoking when they were young in an effort to look cool in front of their friends? Now, of course, TV and film were partly to blame for that, especially many years ago. Now there's less smoking in films. But also, as people get older, they continue to smoke because they think in some way they're hanging on to their youth. Now, we know that, of course, that as you get older, the smoking looks worse. And in fact, you're no longer cool when you've got that hacking cough and those yellow nicotine fingers. And trying to get that through to a client and the subconscious is incredibly important. Some of those people who think they're cool might also believe they're a bit of a rebel. Smoking is something that many people do as a little secretive activity. They do it, they think it's their own, and by doing it, they're sort of saying, well, get lost to all their friends, I can do whatever I want to do. That means that if you use suggestions with those people under hypnosis and say to them, hey, you will stop smoking, you will quit smoking, you will not put a cigarette to your lips anymore, it simply won't work, because that person will still have in their mind that they can do what they like. That means you need to persuade the subconscious that there is a better way forward that more suits the purpose of that person. If you can do that, then the rebel starts to disappear away, and so does the smoking habit. Oh, and if I could count the amount of people who come into my clinic and say that the reason they smoke is because they're bored. Somehow they think the action of putting a cigarette to their lips and, smoking it for 5 minutes is enough to resolve the boredom. What they don't realize is that they're still bored after they've had the cigarette. The cigarette doesn't solve the issue. Trying to give people healthy habits and things to do instead of smoking is highly important for these people. And we also need to address the fact that some people believe they're addicted to cigarettes. They think that they're undergoing a nicotine withdrawal. Now, in many cases, that isn't really true at all. What they're actually going through is a bit of a psychological turmoil. They're breaking habits and associations. Those people are perfectly happy not to smoke for 8-9 hours when they're asleep at night. They don't wake up every hour and put a fag in their mouth. But yet, if you put that same person on a plane to Alicante for a 2-hour flight, they start to panic and fret and worry about not being able to smoke. The reality is it is often the habit and the association that's the problem rather than that real nicotine problem. Well, stress certainly makes people reach for those cigarettes. I don't know, they've had a row with their boss, they go outside and they start smoking a cigarette and it seems to calm them down, seems to soothe them. It's like a pacifier. Finding alternative methods to help our clients reduce their stress is highly important. And normally we may even give our clients a hypnosis audio to listen to just to allow them to reduce that stress level. Reducing stress is highly important when it comes to cigarette smoking, and hypnosis is the perfect tool to do that because it involves such deep relaxation. And when you link in with stress, the need to take time out, when you've got the double combination, that's really a problem. I know that, for example, many mothers who come to see me use the cigarette smoking as a way of getting away from their children for 5 minutes. Now, of course, we're not talking young babies here. We're talking, teenagers running around the house, screaming, shouting, and the mum feels, oh, I need that moment to myself. I'll have a cigarette. Of course, fathers will have a similar reason. And they go outside, they stand on the patio, have a cigarette. It gives them that 5 minutes headspace. We need to put into the mind of those people that having that headspace and that time for themselves and taking that break is perfectly okay, but they can do it without the need to have a cigarette in the fingers. The cigarette doesn't help stress. It actually increases the blood pressure, and so it does the opposite of what a person wants. But the taking of the time out and some deep breathing, that does help. We also have people coming in, particularly women, but not always, who use cigarettes, they think, to control their weight. Now, the reality is there's about £7 difference between a smoker and a non-smoker. So, it's very, very little on average that the cigarette, puts onto that person. But the harmful effects of that £7 are minuscule in comparison to the harm that the cigarette is doing. And if you use hypnosis, it can often help to remove the need for that additional food. So therefore, you can bypass that £7 weight gain just by getting your hypnotherapist to put some suggestions into the mix to deal with any issues with eating. One of the biggest reasons, however, for people smoking is habit and association. My God, we are creatures of habit. We like to do things on a timetable. We like to do certain things every morning. Who's always ever had cornflakes for breakfast and had them week after week, day after day? How many people always put their feet up when they get in front of the TV and just sit there for an hour or two after work? We have little rituals, and these are in place with cigarettes. You have a cigarette with your coffee in the morning. Maybe when you get on the phone, you light up a cigarette then. Go in the car, we'll have another cigarette as we're driving, and then if we walk the dog in the evening, we'll have a cigarette as we do it because we're outside. All of those habits and associations need to be broken. When you break the habit and association, the need for the cigarette often just disappears away. So we often help our clients in our first stop smoking session to reduce those habits and associations. And if we can halve the need for cigarettes just by that alone, we know we're on to a winner for our full-on stop smoking session. And finally, one of the last big reasons why smokers will continue to smoke is what we call a secondary gain. That means that the person is gaining something from continuing the habit. And a perfect example of this may be somebody who is in a job that's quite mundane or boring and they don't really love. And so they'll find that a great excuse to get away from that job is going on their cigarette break. And they may get additional breaks at work just because of their cigarette smoking habit. Therefore, giving up the habit means they can no longer, they think, have the breaks. And helping our clients to realize that they can potentially have the break as well without the cigarette can help to reduce that need for that secondary gain. These are just some of the most common reasons that we come across with our clients for them continuing to smoke. A good hypnotherapist is always able to address the underlying causes of someone's habits or problems. And we deal with all sorts, even anxiety and depression. So it's worth giving us a call if you feel the need to stop smoking and need some expert help to get you there. If you want to contact us, then you can email us at martina@balancehypnotherapynottingham.co.uk or call us on 01636 650 521. And there's many more details about the treatments that we offer on our website, which you can see on the link below.